at the end. So I'll turn it over to you, Dan.
Great, thank you, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I served for nearly 30 years, La Mesa Police Department just outside of San Diego, retired as a captain, FBI Academy graduate, and the book Bulletproof Spirit is required reading at the FBI National Academy. And when I went to the FBI Academy, it set me on a course of experiences and learning that really significantly not only changed my career, but helped change and save my life. And that's what I want to share with you guys this afternoon. Especially during this current crises, things can really build up to where we feel helpless with all the demands being placed on you, and just not really knowing what to expect, and kind of feeling that you're out of control. So it's really essential to focus on being the good amidst all the bad, being focused on controlling just those few things in life, which we'll get to, that you really have absolute control over, and learn not to take things personally and not to let all the adversities, everything that's going on to really sap the life out of you. And there's really much you can do to take control over your emotional wellness and your survival to get through this, and be well and be healthy. So I want you to think about, have you changed just within the last few months from the coronavirus and everything that has been placed upon you? How have you changed throughout your career? I had an officer tell me how he's changed is he has to make a conscious effort to be nice to a 7-year-old son, because it doesn't come natural to him anymore. He has to force himself to play with him, be nice to him. And all of us can really suffer from this shutting down and not being able to connect with people, not being able to relate to people, not being able to be close, being indifferent, more and more uncaring, becoming isolated, less and less resilient, just angry all the time. And there's a lot that we can do to help prevent that. Just to get started, here are just 5 of some simple things, but they need to be practiced. Now, don't wait for your brain to be injured from your daily traumas, which is what post-traumatic stress actually is. Be doing things from this moment on, day in and day out, to enhance your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health and wellness. All 4 of those components that make us human have to be addressed consistently every single day if you're going to make it through this career, make it through this crisis, and be well. So one of the main things that we can do is to practice mindfulness, just being in the present moment, not thinking about what could happen, what might happen, what may happen in the future, or stuck in the past, but totally invested in what's happening with you right now. Fully in tune with what you're thinking, and why you're thinking that, what you're feeling, the opportunities in the present moment, how to make the very most of them. Just totally focused and present in the present moment with what you're doing, and trying to make a meaningful difference in that moment, to be productive of wellness, to be useful to other people, and to be meaningful. That is very much health producing. I talk a lot about the purpose of heart-centered service, because our job truly is a vocation of the heart. Right? We protect life. We serve our country, we serve our community. We protect and enable people to live their life without being victims of evil. And the one thing I learned more than anything else in 30 years of law enforcement is, if you're not driven by your heart with compassion to try to make a meaningful difference every single day in every call for service, make a difference in your agency and make it more professional, make a difference with your colleagues, make a difference in the community that you're serving, making a difference with the people you're interacting with. If you're not doing that, the job's going to And I learned that more than anything else. And the number one thing that counteracts that is having that heart-centered service and compassion to do the most good. Be the good amidst all the bad. Learn to control what you can and letting go, and trying to make decisions and do those things that are the most compassionate and the most life-affirming for you. You can train your brain to do that. That'll go a long way to build your resiliency and help you to stay motivated and healthy and well. The most compassionate, the most helpful, the most useful and the most life-affirming, those things that will enhance your sense of peace instead of erode it, enhance your sense of well-being, your health, your enjoyments, your enrichment in life and at work instead of erode it. And these are just a few things. There's many that we can do. There's over 40 in the book I mentioned, of taking control over your survivability and not to be a victim of what's currently going on, not to be a victim of other people or your agency. So what a lot of people think that they can't develop post-traumatic stress because they haven't been involved in a shooting or anything horrific. And most of our people who have PTSD or PTSD, they never were in a shooting. They were just doing your job day in and day out, right? How many suicides can you see in all the different ways people kill themselves? How many dead babies? How many child molests? How many acts of violence? How many fights can you get into? How many threats against your life? How many fatal car collisions? And just on and on and on. And trauma is not only poisonous, but it's cumulative. And it can build up within our brains to the point that the processing part of your brain that tries to make sense out of every experience and file it away in your memory just kind of breaks down. And that's the injury. And then the symptoms start to develop. You know, your daily traumas cannot only injure your brain, causing PTSD, but they can kill you, right? And we all know suicide's the number one cause of death. Lost about 140 peace officers last year to suicide. And if any one of them were ever in a class like this, they might be thinking what you're thinking. There's nothing that could ever happen to drive me to take my own life. I have way too much to live for. And every single one of them did. That's the power of trauma and how it can hijack our brains and take over our life. I'm here to tell you guys, you cannot outrun, you can't outlast trauma, right? The symptoms typically aren't going to just go away over time, but you can heal completely, at least learn how to manage your symptoms and get your life back if you stop and face it. Say something like this to somebody, you know, that something's going on inside I don't like. I might need a little help, right? That's not that hard to say. And once we do that, there's all kinds of resources available and ways to recover and to heal your brain and to be well again. I've had EMDR done. We'll talk about EMDR in a moment, probably the most effective treatment for post-traumatic stress that's out there. And I went one time, and an issue that bothered me off and on for 25 years that I really struggled with went away. And EMDR with just a few sessions is really more likely than not to finally help restore and heal the part of your brain that has been injured through traumas. Here's a great video about 5 minutes long about resiliency, great ideas how to enhance and strengthen resiliency and not, again, be a victim of everything that's going on right now.
Resilience is not a gift. It's something to be built and maintained over time. And just like physical fitness, we can build resilience and become more resilient and fit all the way around throughout the career if we focus on the need to manage the stress load in effective ways.
As a profession, we're equipping law enforcement officers with the ability to learn how to bounce back. They never forget that the key of resiliency lies with the fostering of hope, right? That's intentionally believing that there's good, even if in a moment you're the only good.
They have to be resilient. They have to be able to go work a child's death call and get back in that patrol car and go and help somebody find their dog and everything in between, right? So they have to be resilient, because if they're not, the job will eat them up.
The interesting thing about officer resilience is it's something that can be taught. But the officers that are resilient all have several things in common. They have good social support. They see hits to their career as challenges and not crises. They are able to feel appreciation for the things that they have in their life. In other words, they consciously look at the glass as being half full rather than half empty.
The other key piece of resiliency to me is intentionally training your mind. And that means intentionally finding ways to reframe your challenges. What if, I know this is a radical concept, but what if every challenging moment was happening for you? Was an opportunity for you to practice coping, for you to intentionally choose your character, for you to practice and engage resiliency? And what if every challenging thing that ever occurred to you allowed you to practice and build wisdom from it, to get a lesson from it, so that then you could help someone else who goes through the exact same thing? Because if you look at the challenges of life in that way, every difficult thing, every unfair thing, every horrible negative thing only shows up to make you better.
Shots fired. 77 Mr. College. I got one hit. Start betting. Officer down.
Instead of being frustrated about this, crappy situation that I was dealt, I wanted to learn why it happened, what happened, could we have changed something, could there have been anything different? I became very proactive with that. I think that helped me cope with a lot of it, but it was very much a mindset for me. There's a silver lining in everything, and you just have to find it, and that was really what my goal was to find the silver lining.
And to me, the key of that is your mindset, your outlook, what you believe, and what you look for. Because as we all know, whatever you seek, you will find.
So some of these adverse experiences that I've had, whether it was in childhood or throughout my career, Marine Corps experiences, combat experiences, that slow, steady drip of traumatic experiences in law enforcement. After seeking counseling and getting some treatment for some of these things that I was experiencing, I think one of the biggest takeaways for me was I learned how to harness those, for lack of a better term, bad experiences, and use that as motivation to do good and to come out better and stronger and respond to things that I was experiencing in the now with an advantage, because I had gone through some terrible things before. I was a high school wrestler. I did martial arts growing up. I was in jiu-jitsu, judo, and one of the principles is using your opponent's momentum against them, right? And taking the energy that they're putting in to the fight and then flipping it around on them. And I think through my treatment and my experiences, I've kind of recognized that I could do good with the bad things that are happening, and constantly trying to use the momentum of a bad experience and flip it around on itself and make it a positive.
I can do good with all the bad things happening. We can just focus on that principle that will get us through pretty much anything. All right, so I write about character-based service, because we really have to have some kind of a guideposts to get us through the trauma minefield of our career. And the most effective guidepost there is, as I mentioned earlier, is being driven by your heart to serve with compassion and to be useful, to be meaningful to your agency, to your colleagues, and to other people. That's a basic human need, is to be useful, right? The purpose of human life is to serve and to do good and have the will and compassion to help other people. And when we become disconnected from that core purpose of life and of our work, you can really be vulnerable to suffer from all the traumas of our job, and becoming more and more selfless, more and more devoted to the great nobility of what it means to protect life and to serve with a full and a pure heart, to do as much good as you can. Be committed to making a difference, right? And continuously trying to improve, to grow, to be more constructive and helpful and positive in our service, and building and healing and enhancing our relationships. Those things that mean the absolute most to us. So I might be thinking, well, how do you make a difference, right? Because a lot of us tend to lose our way through the career. So if we're more and more affected by traumas, you first have to want to, right? And once you get to that point of being committed to doing the most good you can with every call for service, you just kind of silently ask yourself in the middle of a situation, in the middle of conversing with somebody, what good can I do here? How can I matter? How can I be useful? What can I do to help make things better? If that's your continual focus, you will remain motivated and inspired and empowered throughout your whole career to do a tremendous amount of good. And all of that is going to be productive of wellness for you and help process a lot of the traumas that have built up. Every good, positive thing you do helps to erase old past traumas within your brain. That's just how God wires us up. It's how our brains work. And there's a ton of science behind these things being productive of wellness, the health benefits of it. It reduces your stress levels. It helps you to feel good. It increases and strengthens your resiliency. It increases your motivation and your job interest, your job satisfaction. It enhances your overall mental and your physical health, which is why it increases your survivability, your longevity. It lessens depression and it lessens anxieties, and it increases your ability to connect and to relate to people. You take a look at this list. Every single thing that our job is eroding and eating away at day after day, bad call after bad call, being driven to make a difference, to do as much good and being useful in positive and constructive ways is all adding to. It's enhancing, it's restoring, it's re-energizing, it's healing. All right, so I mentioned EMDR. There's several treatments for post-traumatic stress. For me, I've had this done, so I can tell you this absolutely works. And as I go around the country, I go all over North America providing wellness training to first responders. I don't really hear about the other treatments. I hear about EMDR all the time. Things like it's the best thing I ever did. It saved my life. I should have done it years ago. And I believe I always put out there that we should be going to a EMDR trauma therapist once a year, just like you go to a medical doctor for a physical, just to make sure everything's okay as a matter of prevention and maintenance. And if God forbid you do start to develop symptoms and things are going on, that's who you want to go to. So it stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. If you go to emdria.org, they give you all kinds of information about it. And it will lead you to where you can find a trauma therapist in your area. There's over 20,000 in the United States. Or you can also just Google trauma therapist EMDR San Diego, wherever you're at, and a bunch of more will come up. The best thing about EMDR is it's not talk therapy. You will not be going every week and talking about your traumas for 5 years. It's not going to happen. Maybe you have to go a half a dozen times or a dozen times or something, but you will, more likely than not, at least start to manage your symptoms and start to get your life back, if not get healed altogether.
Mindfulness and meditation essentially is a way of centering your thoughts on your breathing. As the body calms down, as we breathe and we focus on our breath, it reduces our cortisol levels, which reduce our stress. We know that a calm mind is a calm body, and a calm body is a calm mind. So our wellness unit has created a mindfulness for law enforcement program. Essentially, we are taking this program out to our divisions. We're having officers do mindful meditation for 10 minutes prior to their start of their shift. The idea is that hopefully this helps mitigate some of the stress that they may have brought from home, or maybe some stress that they have at work. Understanding that if they go out into the community, they'll be a better, more resilient police officer.
Mindfulness-based resiliency has helped me so much with being present in everything that's going on. Being present in the moment, living in the now, not worrying about what's going to happen, not worrying about what just happened, not thinking about what can happen, but just being here, being present, being ready to handle whatever comes my way.
Helpline is a hotline for police officers and their families, manned by well-trained, vetted, retired police officers who engage in active listening. You know, unfortunately, you've got to sit with those incredibly uncomfortable feelings, knowing that you did the best you could. And 5 minutes later, the individual called Copline back and said that he had put the firearm in his safe and thanked him.
This is a completely anonymous and confidential hotline staffed 24 hours a day by officers who want to give back to the people that are already, that are currently on the force.
So they're there to listen to you and maybe give you information, maybe give you referrals, or maybe just to be there silent and just like understand what you're going through. Not to send someone to your house, not to call the authorities on you because you said that you want to commit suicide. To get that information out, it is so helpful, because I guarantee you, if this was around or I knew about Copline back before I lost everything to addiction, I probably would have called and at least said something, knowing that it's completely confidential. That's why I support Copline 100%.
So some of the things that I've done to help recover from the trauma that I've experienced and to really practice resiliency, I'm a big proponent of exercise and fitness. I love being in nature, whether it's camping, surfing, just swimming in the ocean, being out there, having some of that alone time, you know. But then also, on the flip side, having those intimate one-on-one conversations with, whether it be family, you know, your spouse. My wife's been very supportive and fantastic through this, spending time with my kids, with my counselor, with my friends, and just having those human connections. It's a nice balance to go with the times that I just need to be alone, you know. I also practice my faith, and I've got a lot of inner peace through that, and that has really helped me along the way.
All right, so in our last few moments here, I want to highlight something that Yale University has come up with. Again, I mentioned about all the science behind what I'm sharing with you today. This is Yale University, so there's a ton of science behind this program here. Several of their psychologists and psychiatrists got together and they created this semester course on how to have a meaningful, successful career in life and remain at peace, right? Something we all strive towards. And there's only 5 components that they teach that enable you to do just that. Again, with a ton of science about how this actually works and how productive of wellness. And the first is to practice gratitude. They mentioned that in the video earlier about being in touch with the good in your life and being able to express it. It'll also help to heal and nurture your relationships as well. Being more grateful, more expressive of that. Practicing being more positive. You know, cops are probably the most negative, bitter, angry people I've ever met in my life, and they're doing the greatest job in the world, protecting life. Practice thinking, speaking, believing in more positive terms. Remain engaged and active in life, even if you don't feel like it, you don't have energy to force yourself, plan ahead. Think about your days off and your times off before you are actually there in them, so you can fill them up and stay active and involved, especially out in nature. A ton of science about the health benefits and energizing effects of being in nature. Practice mindfulness, being in the present moment, and finally have a purpose beyond your self-interest. Find something to absolutely love about your job. There's a ton of things to love about public service. Something beyond your self-interest, something that enables you to be useful and helpful to the cause of protecting and serving life and being all the good amidst the bad. So moving forward, if you can just come up with one thing to enhance your mental fitness and start practicing it day in and day out, maybe start reading, research something, study something, One thing to enhance your physical fitness daily, one thing to enhance your emotional wellness. Maybe you're going to try and express gratitude more, be more positive. And one thing to enhance your spiritual wellness. Maybe you're going to try and be more connected with people, more selfless, more giving, more helpful, more compassionate and kind. Right? All those things, all four of those components have to be nurtured if we're going to get through our careers and be healthy and well. So I would imagine that most of you would probably at the end of your career would like to end up like this, probably with somebody that you actually like, someone that you can talk to, not on your fifth marriage, not an alcoholic, not suffering from post-traumatic stress, not hating people, hating the world, hating your job, wishing you did something else for a living, but really having this sense of pride of all the good you were able to do and looking forward to the next 30 plus years of your life. And if you do absolutely nothing to promote your health and wellness from this moment on, you might make it and be fine. Just the odds are really stacked against us. Everything you do from this moment on will help ensure that that is realized. So that's it. That's our presentation this afternoon. If there's any questions, please go ahead and either type them in, or I think you can also hit the raise hand. That's how you can get a hold of me there at the very bottom, or if you're interested in the book. If there's anything I can ever do to help you guys, if you're interested in me coming to your agency, please don't hesitate to ask. So God bless you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Dan. With that, any questions or anything, any ideas or anything that's been working at your agency that anyone wants to share at this time? Go ahead and unmute yourself and feel free to speak up. I have a question, Dan, if nobody pipes in, is, if you think back to the last maybe economic recession, the last kind of crisis, 2008, 2009-ish, or even times before, as we're going through this pandemic, during these unusual times and times of crisis, as I mentioned at the beginning, the focus here is about maintaining motivation. How did you find ways to motivate your troops during the times when the job looked drastically different? Your interaction with the public, with your businesses these days is just different based off this pandemic. How did you feel, or how did you lead the troops to maintain that sense of motivation to remember why you put the badge on in the first place?
Well, one thing I did was try to always make it fun. I mean, there's a great opportunities to actually have fun in this job. It's the funnest, best job in the world, along with connecting with your people, whether you're a supervisor or just a colleague, especially in these difficult times, take a personal interest in them, in their well-being, and supporting each other and being there for each other and offering yourself to each other, listening, right? One of the best things we can do is just be present, be there to listen and to show that you actually care about your colleague and their health and their well-being. And always find those things to have fun in this job, and try to remind each other that we're there because we're needed. They need you to be healthy and well so that we can provide the service the community demands and expects and deserves, because that's how we're going to prevent people from being victims of crime. And I always like to remind my people, throughout your career, you'll probably save thousands and thousands of people from ever being a victim of a crime because of your good police work and putting someone in jail who's now not out able to molest your kids, rape and kill and murder people. We have to really remember all the good that we do day in and day out.
Any final questions or thoughts? Well, thank you, Dan, for your time and what you shared. And again, I think it's going to be very helpful and a great resource for not just only CPO members, but everyone across the profession. So thank you and everyone for your time today. And we hope you tune in next time. Thanks all.
My pleasure. Thanks, Sean.